To our speakers, welcome. Just one rule, and as the motto of 2020 is, you are on mute. So please unmute yourself as needed, or you will see me do this, as you all know. So before we starting with the official agenda, I'm super excited that we have here with us today Angel Lorente, the founder and CEO of Fintech Connector. Good morning, Angel, live from New York. Maybe, please, it would be great if you can open the event.
Thank you. Mike is on it. Good. Well, thank you very much, Shaul, Fabian. Thank you for organizing this. I'm Angel Lorente. I am the founder and CEO of Fintech Connector. Just by way of background, I've been in financial services for over 25 years, here based out of New York, Morgan Stanley. I've done a number of things. I started Fintech Connector back in 2016 on the back of an MIT course that I was taking on fintech and future commerce. And the reason being is that somebody with many years of experience like myself, I was really trying to understand, well, what do I do next? Fintech was definitely changing the way that financial services are doing business, both on the front, middle, and back office. And I said, there's a way that I should be getting involved here. And as I started meeting people that were taking the course, what I started really seeing is that there was a gap between those enablers, those professionals like myself, and those innovators that were creating solutions to complex financial services problem. And the disconnect or the gap was that, how do I bring this wealth of information of people that have experience in financial services that want to help with these innovators? And that was the birth of Fintech Connector. We started in New York as a meetup group. We grew globally, as you could see here with Fabian, Shaul, and Richie, who are the community partners in Switzerland. We have a number of communities around the world, but the most important thing is that we want to stick to our vision, which is how do we connect people, organizations, and capital, both human capital and funding capital, to create that next generation of fintech innovation or financial services innovation around the world. So I'm going to keep it short because I want to turn it back to Fabian and Shaul. Thank you very much for having here. Thank you, our Swiss community and all the other members and participants from around the world. But more importantly, if you're not a Fintech Connector member, please join today, because we would love to have you on our platform. Already 3,000 people in 110 countries. Shaul, back to you.
All right, thanks, Angel. Thank you so much. And it's my great pleasure to hand over the mic to Fabian. Fabian, maybe you introducing Fintech Connector in Switzerland. Maybe it's a good time. Tell us a bit about yourself, and also tell us what is Fintech Connector in more details.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Depends where you are. Welcome to this event also from my side about open banking and digital transformation. It's a real pleasure to host today's session, and would like to thank all speakers that are here with us today. Some of you may remember, the March event that we had in Zurich, and like Shaul already told you, and this is very interesting. Now we had this real world event. Now we have this digital event. This is really our value that we bring. And I'm Fabian. I'm the community partner Switzerland of Fintech Connector. I'm also a financial professional with more than 15 years of experience working in the banking sector. I worked in private banking before moving to venture capital and now product management for investment products. And we all know that the financial sector will be impacted by the financial technology, and we are convinced that joining forces will help to innovate financial services for global impact. So what is Fintech Connector? We're a global fintech community with over 3,000 members on our platform. We connect enablers, that means financial professionals, investors, or organizations, with innovators, startups, entrepreneurs in the fintech space, and to collaborate and to cultivate fintech ideas. And how do we do that? So via our platform, you can register and create your own profile and look for partners. But we usually also organize real-world events, like I told before, which can be used as a platform too, where our members can meet in person. The beauty of our community is the international presence. So if you, for example, want to know more about your sector in another country, for example, regulatory issues, hiring people, business development, if you're looking for funding to step into a new region or new country, you can reach out to our members on our platform and asking for help. And also, if you plan to expand your business internationally, if you want to go to another country, our community partners, like us here in Switzerland, we have community partners also in the UK, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, and of course in North America. You can reach out to our community partners in the respective countries, helping you in finding the right contact and making intros. So for more information, like Angel already says, the registration, we invite you to visit fintechconnector.com after the event, not now. And we will also send an email afterwards with more information. And yeah, now let's go digital. Shaul, please.
All right, thank you, Fabian. So yeah, as just to add, as you said, in the end of the event, everybody will get an email with some ways to engage with the global community, to become a member. Really, this community, personally, I can also add, it helps you, if you're into fintech, but also as a fintech companies, there's a lot of things coming up and, tools to scale your business in the target market or globally. So as you saw, there was some a poll coming up, and now we will launch a second poll, and you should see it on the screen. I think, Angel? Here we go. All right, so take a few seconds. Do you think Switzerland is ready for open banking? Please, we need your answers. And I can see that it's coming up. Great. We will close the poll in a few seconds, so please vote. And we are closing the poll now. All right, great. So without further ado, just on time, dear panelists, let's start with a quick intro from each of you. Please, tell us a bit your background and the company. Gil, we will start from you. Gil from Open Legacy, the mic is yours.
All right, so first of all, pleasure to be here, and thanks Shaul, thanks Angel and Fabian. I mean, it's a great pleasure to be here and have this discussion. My name is Gil Cohen. Originally, I'm coming from Israel, but in the last 15 years, I've been in Switzerland, so I'm based in Geneva. And I am a general manager of EMEA for Open Legacy. Just for those of you that do not know Open Legacy, we are a product company, an innovative way to actually integrate legacy system with the digital world, being able to do it faster, easier, more standard. And it's a pleasure to be here.
All right, thank you, Gil. We will get back to you, of course, later. And next on the line is Marc from DXC Technology Switzerland, please.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm excited to be part of this panel as well, so thanks a lot for inviting me to the discussion. My name is Marc Brogler. I'm the CTO for banking in Switzerland at DXC Technology. DXC Technology, for the ones that don't know it, is the largest independent IT provider in the world. We have roughly 140,000 people in the company who are serving all industries, and also the banking industry, which is the industry with the largest footprint actually. And DXC Technology in Switzerland is also a founding partner of Open Banking Project.ch, which is a non-profit organization that tries to accelerate the adoption of open banking in Switzerland. And we also try to bring open banking into operation in Switzerland.
All right, thank you very much, Marc. And we're going live to Andy. Please, the stage is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Andy Waar. I'm representing Yapeal. I'm in charge for the whole packaging, marketing, communication at Yapeal. Yapeal is a very young company. We're taking care of your digital wallet, and in essence, we want to be your salary account in future. So maybe worth to mention that we are the first licensed fintech in Switzerland, so really officially approved from FINMA, and very thankful that you're having me here as the smallest fish in this round. Nevertheless, let's see if how we can contribute. I think we can talk about what we do backstage on our side. I think we have some good stuff to talk about. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Definitely we will. Thank you very much. So, to kick off everything, I just want to share with the audience and with the panelists, a couple of news that just came up last week. So I will quote here, starting this month, the two leading initiatives, Common API from the Trade Association Swiss Fintech Innovation and Billing from SIX have made their API specification compatible in the area of payments. They are thus establishing the first official standard that is not only accepted, but also already in operational use by different market participants. The second article that I saw was that Credit Suisse Bank just announced that they are planning to cut about 500 jobs and to dissolve about 40 physical branches as part of their digital transformation, while talking about launching their own digital bank. So with that, Marc, we spoke. You will just give us a bit of an overview on the current state of open banking in Switzerland, but I would like also if you can, comment on those news. So please, your stage.
Yeah, thank you, Shaul. So yes, indeed, very exciting times for open banking and for fintechs at the moment in Switzerland. I think it's going the right direction. As you all might know, in Switzerland, we don't have really a regulator that is forcing banks to open up with APIs. On the other hand, the Swiss market has here really the opportunity to bottom up, develop a standard by ourselves or standards by ourselves that are fit for the market and can be innovative at the end. But on the other hand, it doesn't make sense to actually have for each of the different banking domains, being it payments, accounts, or trading, for example, to have a multitude of API flavors out there. So that now the different communities and the different entities that work on these standards in Switzerland are now getting together, and joining forces is really a good development, which at the end also helps to accelerate adoption and also makes it much more easier for a fintech or for fintechs and startups to then actually connect to the banks, because it doesn't make sense that every fintech would have to implement individually with each bank or with a multitude of standards. Then open banking doesn't make sense at the end. But I would also be excited to hear about from the colleagues what they think about the current development and where they see the opportunities and chances and also challenges out there in the market, of course.
Sorry, yeah, Fabian. So I'm curious, because to hear your opinion about, what Marc said and about open banking in Switzerland, because you, from one hand, you are a fintech connector, fintech enthusiastic. On the other hand, you work in a bank, right? So,
yes.
Daily struggle, right? So, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, like Marc says, we have exciting times now in Switzerland. So my experience is that the topic it's getting interesting. So people are aware of open banking, of API. It's not only it's still an IT issue, but also a business, and I think we need to shift attention also to the business. So what we will need is more strategic roadmap from banks. So like, for example, the Raiffeisen Bank, some of you may have heard about it. They have it now in the strategy that they want to build an ecosystem using other partners. They partnered up with Mobiliar Insurance. Then there are other banks that already announced that they will do something. But like I said, so we have initiatives like open banking project.ch, where Marc is involved, or DXC solution technology, sorry. And yeah, we have other B-Link, SFTI, they join forces now, and this shows so that they are aware that we have to join forces, that we are a small country, we are not regulatory driven in this case, like PSD2, what is good, I think. So we as the banks, we really have the chance now to yeah, from scratch to really build a good strategy all together, hopefully to innovate and to yeah, to enhance the financial sector, because we have a lot of opportunities out there to use.
That's true. It's you know, it's time to either become a leader or a follower. Marc, one more thing about that, you know, and I think we spoke about it before with this event. You know, in Switzerland, we always, you know, trying to put the Swiss flavor, the Swissness of things, right? So in open banking, right, do you think, you know, maybe you can elaborate about what is the Swiss factor and if it's the right thing to do at the moment, or maybe using existing standards, you know, maybe some example if you have.
So yeah, you talk about this Helvetisierung that we are often hearing out there. In my personal opinion, it doesn't make sense to come up with something completely new, bottom up, with the Swiss perfect standard, and nobody else in the world will understand that at the end. Rather, we should go the other way and see what's out there as standards being either developed by the colleagues in the country or by the European colleagues. They had a lot of efforts there. They made a lot of errors as well, and had also challenges when they implemented their PSD2 implementations. So we should learn from that. We should look at it, and we should really do the minimal delta, the minimal changes that make it also adoptable for the Swiss market, because this will give opportunities to European fintechs to more easily enter the Swiss market, and also for the Swiss fintechs that have then connected to the Swissly slightly changed standards to actually go abroad and also expand in Europe beyond the borders of Switzerland, because the Swiss market is really small. You can be a very good niche player, but if you want to grow, if you want to expand, you really need to be able to leverage the well-distributed and well-thought through APIs that are common out there. So from that perspective, yes, we shouldn't go for the Swiss-specific island solution, but rather see how we can take the best things from out there and make the slight changes that it works here.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe, you know, maybe it will also be a referendum here in Switzerland, right, about that. So Gil, you know, you guys practically eat API for breakfast, right? I mean, maybe, you know, you can give us a bit of, you know, background about API development, you know, from your experience at the company, and also, you know, the current state of the API economy.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you mentioned the API economy. I think this is the direction, and it's also related to the previous question, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's great to see that Switzerland is not driven by regulation, but actually more by opportunities, and everybody understands the business and the impact that it can have. Now, if you look at the whole integration space, and you're talking about even the evolution of how things happen, and now it's great to see everybody's talking about API and digital services and understand the importance of this. But everything pretty much started where, you know, it was more of a point-to-point integration. Everything, you know, this is how things were connected in the probably 30, 40 years ago. And then in the last kind of like 15, 20 years, a lot of the enterprises were moving more into the ESB and so architecture, how we can actually centralize everything. And we have a nice metaphor about this. So everything used to be a spaghetti. It used to move more to become a lasagna. So it's a lot of different layers. And now everybody's moving more to the ravioli part, so more towards the microservices. I hope I didn't get anybody hungry here, but that's kind of like the evolution that we see in the integration space. And APIs needs to be treated as a product. This is where you decouple and you have the opportunity to partner and collaborate with a lot of different players in the market. And you know, if you want to participate in the API economy, and I will be even more bold and say that if you are a company, whether it's a bank or a non-bank, and you are not participating in the API economy and you're not collaborating, probably in 5 to 10 years, you're not gonna exist. I mean, you're gonna be eaten by the Yapeal of this world and others.
All right.
Yeah.
And what do you think is still you know, keeping with you about, you know, basically turn, you know, the bank as in your vision should turn into a platform, right? You know, do you see that already when you're working with banks? Can you give us a bit of a, you know, example and maybe elaborate about the platform?
Yeah, I mean, this is almost every discussion that we have with the banks and clients. We talk about really how do you actually turn your solution into a platform, because you have a lot of assets, you have a lot of functionality, a lot of great things that you're doing. How can you actually leverage other partnerships? And we have some examples. I mean, we've done it already with some Italian banks. We're now in the process of doing it with a very large Austrian bank, and where we help them to actually open up and leverage a lot of the partnerships that they have. And one example is that we had an Italian bank, as I said, that you know, wanted to actually help students apply for a student loan. And one of the principles at the beginning, they wanted to kind of connect them with a link. And what we basically help them to do is basically just connect creating an API, which will be in the university website, that you can immediately you know, apply. The same thing happens we've done something which is in the kind of TV or retail space, where you apply for an insurance. An insurance company wants to offer insurance when you, for example, buy a TV or any other device. So these kind of things, just showing the only thing that the bank or the insurance company had to do is just provide with an API, where it's a completely new business opportunity. I mean, even if you look, and we're talking about banks and organizations that exist for many, many years, but even if you look at organizations, new ones that like Uber and Google, think about how much business they generate, not from their traditional channels. And that's really the power of the API economy. And that's where each organization needs to strive for.
Right. Before we get into Andy, 1 second, I just wanted to ask Marc or Fabian. I mean, Marc, do you have anything to say about this all, you know, platformization and what Giv said from your experience?
Yeah, APIs are on every level, as Jill also mentioned. One part is to have actually the fintechs connected to such platforms. On the other hand, when you go down the system levels, you also encounter many closed systems that need to be broken up by APIs, and that need to be made more accessible in order to be actually able to participate in the economics of open banking. I think the challenge the systems nowadays have and the banks have, that they have such legacy systems in place that they're not even able to expose the services and the digital flows towards the end customers, or to have innovative fintechs also to provide services for small and medium enterprises. So I think it's really important not only to focus on open banking as the last entry point where the fintech would connect, but that you also make the systems ready, the processes ready, and bring the banks also forward in the digital transformation. Nice things like Andy has, when they've built from scratch something, they can do it right. They can take the best practices, the greatest ideas. They are fast, and banks nowadays that are established often have the challenge of that they first need to change culture, need to change processes, and then also at the end need to change platforms or breaking up platforms. So for them, it's a huge challenge actually to be ready to participate in this new economy of open APIs, open banking, or just the world of the new open, I often also call it. So these are my 2 cents for that.
And Shaul, maybe the key thing here, which is something that unfortunately we see now with the current crisis, is speed. And it's very much related to what Marc said, is how, yes, you do have legacy and everybody, and you can argue about even the definition of legacy, but it's the question and the difference between the winners and the losers of this is really how quickly you can adjust. I mean, nobody a few months ago could believe that you will need to move 100% of your products and your processes to be completely digital, including your workforce. So that's really the speed is what will make the difference.
All right. Well, with this build up, Andy, let me ask you a question. I just, in the meanwhile, remind people, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. We would really like to hear from you, and we will share it toward the end with the panelists. So, Yapeal, if I pronounce it correctly, I won't ask you why the name, but I will ask you, you are the first fintech licensed startup in Switzerland, which sounds really cool. Maybe you tell us a bit, what does that mean for you, for your company, and what does it mean for the ecosystem? And the last thing is, are we going to see more of those coming up?
Well, first of all, thank you so much to all participants already for all those flowers. I mean, it's really a very comfortable situation right now to give some more insights on what we do. And a lot has been said already. It's true, we started from scratch. So now that we got the license and we are able to, be independent of third banks, etc., having also the own license to issue the card. So also the card issuing is done by ourselves. So the whole setup is quite unique in Switzerland, which is really nice situation right now and for the future. But like a lot of other comparison, people see the results and not the work towards it. So it was really a hard, tough time the last 2 years. It was not easy to get there. So I really will love to give all flowers back to the team, which did a great effort and helped a lot really doing what we say. A lot of traditional big banks, they use all those nice buzzwords like, client centricity, community driven, open, and all those really nice words. And we prefer to do it and then tell the story instead of promising it and not doing it. Yeah, status now, we are still the first and the only one, fintech, although I have to say we are more tech fin than fintech. It's a big difference. So we are really a tech company with a lot of know-how from the banking industry, which was also needed to build this, of course. And let's see, we hope there will be many more as we strongly believe in the ecosystem and better together. So also now we reached a maturity level, still all small, and we are growing, but nevertheless we reached a maturity level where also incumbents and larger corporations now come back to us and look for exchange and start discussing possible models, etc., which is really nice. It was not the case in the beginning. In the beginning, it was tougher, of course. So now we see there is a lot of willingness to go towards ecosystem, which is good. We also believe that we will survive if we put the strength together. But still, technology is not there. Technology is not there. Also, when we have to chat with the larger corporations, we always come to a point where we see that we cannot synchronize, let's call it this way, the way we would like, and also not in the speed we would like. So this, I don't know how fast the adoption will happen. This I can't answer. We just we just keep on moving fast, and we are super straightforward, and we are happy to welcome everyone that wants to join our journey. But we don't wait, so you better, hurry up, guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's a classic new kid in the block, right? I mean, the first neobanks, everybody was laughing on you and nobody believed, and now everybody is afraid, and then everybody said that you will be alone on the hill when all the banks will collapse. So I find it really, interesting to see sort of the learning curve of the ecosystem, and also, the old vibes in the industry. I did want to ask you, Andy, as a digital platform, as a neobank, how important is the development of open banking in the ecosystem, right? And also, as I mentioned, that Credit Suisse is starting to talk about its own digital, bank or digital payment. I mean, how do you guys approach this strategically, I guess?
I cannot talk for them. I just can talk for us, of course. So, I mean, we are 100% in the cloud. We are 100% API driven. It's everything real time. So I think the setup couldn't be better to take up this journey, right? But still, I mean, you need also partner being on a similar kind of technology level. I can only quote Vito from our team. He's our API god, and his wish. It was really, I mean, I'm the marketing guy, so I'm not the technician, but this was a really good picture for me to understand what he meant with API eco-driven system. API-driven ecosystem, and he said he would love to be kind of the Google map from the financial service industry. And this explains it pretty well, right? Because you have a lot of contribution from the users, etc., and helping growing the system. And then you will come to a tipping point where you need to be in there, else you're out. So we hope to go in this direction and be part of the game. And we go full steam, right? And the other part, for the regulation part, as an ex-lawyer, I can state that it will probably, be not so fast and not so easy, the whole adoption. I mean, we're talking about open banking, but to be honest, open banking is what's happening in UK. So fully fledged with all type of accounts. And this PSD2 kind of workaround stuff we're discussing here in Switzerland, it's just for the current account, which is kind of really small portion of it, right? So still there, I would say we will probably have to live with workarounds in Switzerland for quite a while. But in the end, the user will decide, in our case, the appsters, because the data is their data. And the money, by the way, is their money. We also don't work with their money. It's important to also understand, the whole setup, also from ethical perspective and from sustainable perspective. So let's see. I mean, I'm super confident that the strategy we are aiming for is the right one, and time will tell. And the market will respond, and for now it responds well, so it's good.
May I ask you? May I make a question to Andy from Q&A from Clifford? He's asking, I'm finding that banks in the US are unwilling to create APIs on any new innovative project. If his project is not already on their existing doc, it will not even be considered until late 2021. Is it the case in Europe, or in this case in Switzerland? And if you can elaborate on this, your experience with banks, with your project.
Well, honestly, we just work on our roadmap. Our roadmap is super community driven, so also the priorities on what features will be implemented first is driven by the community. So we make sure that whatever we implement is, wanted before we spend money, implement, and and spend resources, then figure out that no one cares about it, which is often the case, to be honest, in traditional banks. So we reverted the process, and we really do that super open, publicly even. So we have a forum. Check it out. It's forum.yapeal.ch. There you can even read about our roadmap. So we're super transparent. And also not afraid to share our plans, because we know the speed we have, and we know the politics other have. So we are happy to communicate and invite everyone to this journey. So if you really have interest in new features, I would suggest download the app, become a Yapster, and let us know, and then we'll implement it for you. It's probably easier than another way.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for the answer.
Fabian, maybe if I can comment on this, because I mean, we see,
sure.
What you describe is we see it also in Europe, but also we're working in the US, and I can tell you, the biggest challenge is how quickly you can adjust and generate the services that you need and that your customer need. And the biggest challenge is if it costs you a 7-figure number and it takes you 3 or 4 months to do it, obviously you cannot bring it into your existing roadmap. But if you are able to generate services fairly quickly, and even what we tell sometimes, fail fast, test and learn, being able to actually generate these services that you need, these products that will generate the revenue, you need to have this kind of digital muscle to be able to, and this API factory to be able to generate these services. So the ones that are saying that they cannot do it, it's just because they are lacking these capabilities.
Okay, guys. Well, so this is a question. I mean, again, I think I have a question for Marc and Gil. I mean, again, because Yapeal, if we're talking about open banking I want to talk about retail versus SME. Okay, I mean, so obviously Yapeal is a retail banking, the open banking, and you spoke about it, but I really want to touch a bit about the challenges, okay, for SME banking, open banking. For example. If we take it the moment, there's a really an awful recipe, right? I mean, we have a global crisis, and economical recession is coming up in many places. So Gil, maybe, if you mix that with the digital transformation in banking, that is a real need, what do you expect banks to do at the moment? Or, what do you see happening?
First of all, they are forced to do it, because otherwise they're not in business. If they are not able to provide loans and they able to provide some consulting and all the services that the small and medium businesses and the larger enterprises as well need, I mean, they just not going to be able to operate. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, I can tell you that a year ago, when we were working with banks, everybody said they cannot work remotely. Now everybody's working remotely. So people had to adjust quite quickly, and they have to be able to start exposing a lot of the services. I can tell you, just sharing with you a number that we understood that a year ago, about most of the banks, and this is a general number, so expose about 30% of their functionality on their digital platforms. I mean, today it's going up to around 80. So that is a massive change. And I can tell you that a lot of banks and customers that we've been working with basically stop everything just in order and focus on how you can expose and deliver the services in a digital way. So these changes are now we are forced to do it. Otherwise, you're losing a huge market share and you're using a lot of a big part of your business.
All right. And before we will kick off the Q&A, just Marc, and we have another poll coming up now. So please take a few seconds, click your answer. It's a really good question. What kind of approach should Switzerland choose in leveraging open banking? Marc, in the meanwhile, speaking about, again, the SME, I mean, so there's a high demand for that from the bank. it's pretty clear the role of API. What do you see as an integration challenges for the banks, post-COVID, and with the fact that SMEs, are making much less money right now. They have a lack of sales. So, as an integrator, as a system integrator, or what are your foresight for that?
So maybe to pick up something that Andy was mentioning before, he was talking about either we do open banking right, or we should just leave it be, in the sense of not doing a pseudo PSD2 implementation, but rather go fully fledged for open banking. So that's one approach that we really have to make sure if we want to innovate, we have to go the full breadth of the possibilities and go beyond PSD2, really also look at trading, wealth management, all these kind of things, which the Swiss market will have a unique position to really propel forward. Because what in the rest of Europe, and especially with PSD2, has happened is access to accounts, so current account management and multi-banking from that perspective, which is a different kind of animal if you would look at SME banking, small and medium enterprises. They have different requirements. And if we are now in a situation where only a few banks go into the open banking space and adopt it only slightly, there will be for the integrators huge challenges to make this multi-banking across the different standards and other mechanisms that are out there, EBICs, etc., make it work. So it will be very difficult to really provide services that are also suitable for SMEs and larger companies. And you mentioned some challenges they have. They have to really optimize their liquidity. So they have to make sure that they can shift it to the proper accounts. Maybe there's even cross-border at the end. So in the world today, this is very difficult for them to achieve with the current standards that are in place. And especially if you then have to make workarounds, this will get very costly also for the SMEs. So the only way forward here is really to have open standards, broad standards that take into account the different animal sizes, from retail banking up to small, medium enterprise, up to large enterprises, and make sure that the needs of these corporations and potential users are also incorporated in the standards and the use cases and the vision of where we want to propel open banking towards.
A question to that, Marc. There's a question from Martin, and he's asking, what's the best business model for fintech APIs? Do you have an answer for that?
That's a good point. I think it's what I mentioned before. So either you pick up a niche and start to be really good in that one, and then you might not even require a lot of APIs in other banks. Maybe you can do it by your own, or you have then another idea where you say, okay, I specialize in a niche again on an API side, but I go the full breadth. I want to attack every bank on that dimension with a new product, a new service, and really be the guy who owns that API, that specific API in that sense. I don't have the correct answer, which is the best way to go forward, as currently also the platforms still need to evolve to that maturity that you actually can make this selection and see where you want to play. We are not there yet. So it's like Andy, they really fight for 2 years and then build up something, and now have to see how they can really gain traction. And that is the benefit also of being at the forefront at the moment. So that is sexy, this is nice, cool ideas behind it that are different than what happens in the market. But the moment this gets the standard, and there's many others out there, you need to find different ways of how to diversify yourself and be different than the rest.
Okay,
right.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so at this point, one thing I want to do is to share the polls, the answers to the polls, and then to, so do you think Switzerland is ready for open banking? Interesting, 57% says yes, 43% says no, so interesting, quite in the middle, I guess. And we have another poll that we made. In your opinion, what do you think is the biggest obstacle for digital transformation in organization? So we have a tie in the top in organizational culture and legacy technology and limited IT capabilities. That's great. I think we are all in line here with some approach. And then we have another one, yeah. lack of prioritization, and little to no support from upper management. And the last poll that we shared, what kind of approach should Switzerland choose in leveraging open banking? So by far, exchange of data should be required by the government, like PSD2 in the EU. Interesting. That is interesting. Okay, so Fabian, you have some questions from the audience at that stage, right?
Yes. Thank
Right,
you.
yes.
A question probably for Marc as our techie in this round. There's a question from Darshani because one of our goal is also education in this sector. So it's more to understand the basics. What is open banking and its advantages? What is API banking and how is it relevant? What are legacy infrastructure and how is it different from modern technology stacks? What is the main purpose of fintech company? So that's from Rashani, all these questions. Maybe in short sentences, is it possible to give him a
Yeah,
so
I'll
1
try.
minute.
I'll try.
I stop.
It's a lot of questions. Okay, so open banking basically is that banks open up the access to their jewels, the golden data they have. It's the account information and the payment flows. But that means only when the customer, the bank customer is giving the consent. So I could now say, yes, please Fintech, please Yapeal, get into my other bank accounts, extract the information, and we can kind of work with this information that you can take out from my house bank that I have, for example, and play with it. So come up with innovative ideas. And that means then also this kind of banking APIs or open banking as it's then alive, brings in new possibilities which are not possible now at the moment when you are look at banking, traditional banking. You can do, for example, getting your sustainable footprint from the transaction that you're doing. You can analyze this and find out, hey, how sustainable is your consumer behavior if this information is available. These are things that are traditionally not possible. So you can do this if you extract the data and kind of make big data analysis and things like that. So there's a lot of new potential there. And I might have to look at the rest of the questions. Are the infrastructures, legacy infrastructure basically are the monolithic systems that the traditional banks have in place. They're large, they have grown over 40 years and don't have the benefit of what Andy is doing, really from the scratch, building something that is neat, lean, and really to the point of what is required. And if they need to make a change, it goes to what Phil said, speed. They can do it within hours, days, maximum weeks, I would say, to make sure that the new functionality comes in, whereas the large banks have to wait till the next release in the next year, maybe, until they can implement these things. And that hinders the agility at the market and to bring these new kind of business models and these new business ideas into the ecosystem. So I hope I addressed more or less all of the questions.
Great. 1 minute was exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Fabian, next question.
Yeah, another question for Marcin. Does API economy make sense only in the cloud? Who wants to answer this?
I mean, I can only say that basically, I don't think that there will be, especially the existing banks and the large banks, they're never going to be completely 100% in the cloud. I think it's one of the things that the challenges that a lot of them are facing is having a hybrid situation where some will still be locally, and obviously a lot of the things should start to move towards the cloud. Okay, the question is how you can make it easy to start decouple and move towards the cloud. But it shouldn't just make sense when you are on the cloud. It should make sense from day one, and it is a process.
I think it's a good point also, and another point to that is that the cloud is an enabler for fintechs in the sense of that they very quickly can build up systems or to get the systems that they require in order to build the new services. That you would have a traditional bank moving their platforms to the cloud is unlikely and will be a long process. But if you have to build something from scratch and you don't want to first invest in data center service, etc., the cloud helps you to very quickly come up with the infrastructure and the surrounding systems required to build these services. But Andy, sorry, you want
No problem. I mean, I wanted to add an unqualified, non-techie answer to that. So, I mean, in the end, probably for the user, I'm always, thinking from user perspective, speed. You want stuff immediately. You want real time, and as soon as you start doing stuff real time, probably having the technology in the cloud is in your favor instead of having stuff on-prem. But as said, it's not a qualified answer, but just in my imagination, this is probably helpful for real-time rendering stuff being in the cloud. I don't know.
Good, definitely. Fabian, we have space for one more question.
Yeah. So I jumped to a very interesting question, the last question from Alexander. He's asking, what would be the rationale for a bank between simple compliance, minimal implementation of open banking versus fully opening up the product portfolio for API integration? So I think this is a very interesting question.
It depends on the mindset the bank has and goes through. So the first version of just saying, hey, I want to be compliant is the one where you're not really at the forefront of the development. You're a late follower, if at best, and you're not really the leap ahead guy. On the other hand, if a bank says, I want to find a field where I can specialize and also consume services from outside, integrate them into my portfolio, become really the one-stop shop for my customers, bundling out of the economy, out of the ecosystem services into the whole mix that I have, and also become part of this ecosystem on the service, on the loans, for example, or on specific transactions which I can do efficient and fast and good, then I can become part of this. And then it would make sense to completely open up. But it really depends on the mindset the bank has and also the possibilities at the end of the people. We had culture change before as one of the key drivers, and also technology. They also need to have the systems in place that they can do it at the end.
Mm-hmm. So, but I think we all agree that there's really a strategy needed. So cannot start before knowing where you're heading, right?
Andy brought it to the point. You have to have a clear vision. What do you want to bring to your customer? Because you always have to come from the customer side and see how can I bring them benefit. If you go inside out and say, how can I expose my model and make the most money out of it, that's the wrong approach.
So don't expect a seat if you bring nothing to the table. I think this is true.
And maybe one key thing is about standardization. How can you standardize as much as possible and not trying to take the approach? What we see in a lot of banks is they're trying to take the approach of inventing the wheel themselves, and that's where they struggle. You need to partner. You need to partner in order to achieve this agility, being able to be quick. What Andy and Marc were saying, can very much relate to that, because otherwise, I mean, you're never going to get it right the first time. And even if you develop everything yourself, it's going to be, you maybe can support today, but you're not going to be able to support tomorrow.
Okay, guys. So we have 5 minutes now. If you talk to my Swiss side, so we have 5 minutes. If you talk to my Israeli side, we have 10 minutes. But let's try to keep it on time. So I just want to say a few, just to connect here the dots, one thing that the audience doesn't know, and I'm really happy to share it with him, that Open Legacy and DXC actually is a project of ScoutX. We connected, we matched the companies, and they are in talks now, and we agreed to a bit talk about it. And I want to talk about, two things. I mean, first, Marc, maybe, you start really high level, why, but more important, I think also, and it would be interesting for the audience, is how was it, or how is it to do everything with a new partner like that remotely? Please.
So 3 answers to that one. First one is Open Legacy brings something to the table that is quite unique. And again, as Gil said, we don't need to invent everything by ourselves, the wheel by ourselves. So we don't believe in the not invented here syndrome. We are a company that lives in a partner ecosystem as well and want to really work together with partners to bring the best solutions to our customers. So that was the marketing blah blah. On the other hand, it's also very interesting what you mentioned, to actually work together on a virtual way to establish a partnership, and that went pretty well. We had a lot of interactions as well, and looked at potential cases, how we can help each other. And I think that can be very fruitful, such partnerships. And then maybe where do we want to play? And I think that is something I mentioned also before. There is a lot of legacy out there, and there's also a need to open up the legacy. So guess what the name of Open Legacy assumes there? Yes, it's probably the right partner to help us to break the boundaries of these legacy monolithic systems and to tap into that, to actually help the customers, to enable the banks and the other providers, to enable them to be able to expose the services to the market and bring new value to the customers and the customer of the customers at the end.
Great. Gil, anything on your side?
Yeah, I can only echo a lot of the things. First of all, it's been a pleasure to work with Marc and the team there. But I think the interesting thing is really the complementing things. So we're really taking the hard part of how do you actually open and bring the legacy to the kind of new modern way of working that Marc and the team are driving. But also having a lot of the expertise that DXC has in this. I mean, as a young company, again, we've been in business for the last 6-7 years. We have some experienced people, and we're bringing a lot of the know-how, mainly on the technical side. But I think the whole process, which that's how the bank needs to look at it, is something that DXC very much takes care of, and we will really be the enabler of this.
All right, so you guys are the proof that long-distance relationship works, right? So, so with that, I just want to sort of wrap up here. I want to remind everyone that an email will be on its way to you, to everybody in the audience and everybody who registered, with more information on Fintech Connector, with a summary of this discussion and a recording of that discussion. And with that, I would like to thank everyone. We have another poll here of a feedback. Please give us your feedback. And in the meanwhile, while you do that, I would just say a big thank you to everyone. Angel for joining from New York. My partner in crime here, Fabian. Thank you so much. All our speakers, again, Marc, Andy, and Gil, really was a huge pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope it was fun and informative for you as it was for me. And of course, at 6 o'clock sharp, everybody stay healthy, keep social distance, and wear masks. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great discussion. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.